Shabbat, Shabbat, come home and rest. Shabbat, Shabbat, Yahowah's best. Lay down the weak, let your soul be free. Shabbat, Shabbat, come back to me. 6 days we work, then we bask. We leave the noise to hear Yah's voice. We listen, we learn, we struggle to know. We walk with Yah through the mikre. Shabbat, Shabbat, come home and rest. Shabbat, Shabbat, Yahowah's best. Lay down the weak, let your soul be free. Shabbat, Shabbat, come back to me.
Yes, indeed, Shabbat. You know, I look at the A team that we have gathered here in between the five co-hosts. I'll bet we have 100 years together. You know, we I mean, that's not an exaggeration. JB and I did the blog on the blog this morning, and he was one of the very, very earliest. We've been exchanging emails and working together, supporting one another for at least 22 years, and we're going up against 15 or so with Kevin, with Kirk. We're up there in the 20-year range. Probably 21 or 22 collectively with Dr. Jeff. Been best buds for a very, very long time. And Leah and I, by email, in terms of when we first met along the way, was almost 20 years ago now.
No.
Oh, yeah.
6,000 years.
Well, 6,000.
Well, yeah. No, you want to get picky.
Boy, is that ever true? What she's inferring here is, of course, is that she was Chinook's wife. She was Noach's wife. In the next iteration, she becomes exceedingly well known. Her name is Yochebed, which means she's significant to Yahweh. She is the Amma in the story surrounding Moshe's not only birth, but Moshe's upbringing. I've just finished the translation of what I think is the 6 most riveting moments in the Torah. The whole story of Noach and his introduction to us. It is so much different than what anyone has ever perceived before. It's a beautiful story. And I'm now finally translating Ruth. After 25 years, I'm getting to the very heart of the story. Just finished the first verse of Ruth just moments ago. So I can't wait to tell. I think it's the single most important story in the Torah. Prophets and Psalms, it is the ultimate love story. It is the covenant. And to not have an appreciation for Ruth and Boaz, her husband, everything dissolves. There's no doubt. There's no Messiah. There's no Son of God. There's no Savior. There's no kinsman redeemer. There's no covenant. There's no return. Yahweh is unknown. That's the central cast. They are the most deployed people by Yahweh. You'd have to say that Boaz and Ruth are Yahweh's power couple. It's pretty embarrassing that that's the best he could do. But nonetheless, anytime that the going gets tough, he seems to put us into to play. It's going to be some marvelous stories as we go forth and we talk about Ruth. Gentlemen, and lady, I think we do need to talk about where we are today, because this is the most extraordinary time in human history. Particularly pursuant to God's relationship with humankind and with his people. Israel has, over the last 2 years, committed suicide. They got played by Hamas to destroy Gaza, and were actually played into doing so. The attack was specifically designed to irritate Israel to the point that they knew that Israel would go into Gaza and destroy it. And they already had all of the propaganda pieces in place to paint Israel as the colonizer, as the genocidal maniacs, before Israel even responded to genocide being perpetrated against them. And shame on Israel for allowing themselves to be played and for losing the public narrative. As you all know, I wrote them a 150-page open letter saying, this is what you're going to do and why it's going to fail, and this is what you should do and why it would succeed. So it was not difficult to figure out what they needed to do, but they did the wrong thing. And then they went into Lebanon.
All the wrong things.
Yeah, they went into Lebanon twice. and now have gone into Iran twice in winless wars. They had zero chance of prevailing in Iran either time, lost both wars, and now can't figure out why it's checkmate. And don't even want to accept the fact that it's checkmate, but it's checkmate. There is now no hope whatsoever for the state of Israel. The state of Israel is done. It cannot be saved. It has committed suicide. That is not to say that there won't be Yehud saved and Israelites saved. There will be. There'll be a final remnant. But to be a remnant, you're going to have to return to Yahweh individually. There is no way to save the state of Israel now. It's over. You got played into a position that is checkmate, and checkmate, that means there are no more moves. Israel, some people are wringing their hands. They we're only bad options or difficult choices. No, you have no more choices. The game's over. You lost. And that's how bad it is. And it's something that should have been obvious to you, because the prophet spoke vociferously of this time, that you were entering the time of troubles. That would have been on Shabbat, May 22nd of this year, just a month ago, is when you entered the time of trouble. We made that known to you years in advance. We told you exactly what was going to happen during the time of troubles. I wrote an entire volume appropriately named, what would you call it if you're going to talk about the time of troubles? Well,
Jacob's troubles. Yeah.
the time of trouble. 825 pages telling you everything that's going to happen over the next 7 years. And I told that to you a year and a half ago, laid it all out, and it's playing out exactly this way, and even told you that Donald Trump, the president of the United States, is Rahab. He is Satan incarnate. He is the great betrayer. And I told you he was going to betray you, and you didn't listen, and he has. And you're now in a position where if you don't capitulate to Trump and make yourself vulnerable by not attacking your enemies, if you don't attack them and you do what Trump is telling you to do, because you're a vassal now of Donald Trump. He's your only ally in the world, and he happens to be Satan, and he is your great betrayer. So that was really a stupid thing. But if you don't capitulate to him, he's going to cut off all military aid. He's going to cut off all military equipment shipments to you. He's going to isolate you. He's going to vote against you in the United Nations. There's going to be a fake Estonian state. And all those things are going to happen. And you put yourself in this position. And if you capitulate to him and you don't do anything, then Hezbollah and Hamas and Iran are going to invade. And they're going to take you down.
She fell right into Rahab's arms.
So you fell right into Rahab's arms. You got played by Muslims. You didn't bother to read goddamn religion. Wrote 5 volumes to you so you'd understand this religion, so you know what you're up against, and you ignored it. And they played you, and you lost. I mean, it's checkmate. So there is no saving Israel. It cannot be done at this point. Israelis have been stubborn for a long time. You've been arrogant for a long time. You pretended that, you could outthink and outsmart everybody. And it's been just nothing but a series of disasters from the Exodus to now. And now it's over. You pushed one too many times. Yahweh's going to return, but he's only going to return to those who return to him. And it's not going to be to a nation this time. You need to know that's where you are. And we're here for you. And for those that want to return to Yahweh, you can go to yahowah.com. It's the most comprehensive presentation, reintroducing to Yahweh's name, the name that you erased from your name. You even renamed yourself Jews so that you would have no attachment to Yahweh. No attachment to your history when you name yourself Jews. There's no such thing as a Jew. You are Yehud, which is a compound of Yahweh's name and Dod's name. And you need to go back to being Yehud. And if you don't go back to being Yehud, you will join your country. Just as there is no hope for the salvation of Israel at this point. And I'm not being over dramatic. I know what the prophets have said, and I know what you have done, and I know the position that you're in the world. You put yourself in a vassal situation with Satan. It's over. So all you can do now is individually turn to Yahowah. And if you don't do that, if you don't reject Judaism entirely, inject Israeli politics entirely, you can't even make the first step to Yahowah until you reject all association with Judaism and Israeli politics. And then you're free to learn about him, who he is, what he's offering, what he expects in return. And the only place you're going to do that is at yadayah.com. Yada to know Yah.com is the only place. Every book is free. Every vlog is free. The timeline is free. You can engage in communication with other covenant members for free. We don't have any way for you to even make a donation. Wouldn't take your money. We don't want anything from you. We're offering everything to you.
The same way that Yahowah did. It was all free.
All three of you gentlemen, four, including Kevin, since you are the co-host supreme of the vlog on the blog, have been with me these last 3 days as we have gone over the 14-point memorandum and delineated exactly what it means and where Israel is. Is there any wiggle room at all, or do you all concur this is where we are?
This is where we are.
This is exactly where we are.
Yeah. May I say something, Craig?
Absolutely.
Yeah. These sobering days, a month into Hasatan, I have a word I'd like to share with the brethren, especially those in Israel who have an ear to listen, eye to see, and a brain to cerebrate. You have been stiff-necked, recalcitrant, obstinate, insolent, arrogant, impetuous since the time of the Exodus. You have become sophomoric, but really what that word means is you're the smartest morons in the world. As a result, it is time, as we've iterated, to come to know Yah. Come to know your Elohim, God Almighty, who has a name. His name is Yahowah, the most important, significant name in the universe. There's only one way and conduit to achieve salvation, to thrive, and to end up in a place where your children can thrive and grow. And that conduit is to know who the Kol is, the voice of Yah. And at this point in time, his name is Craig Wynn. He's also known as a Choder and a Nakri. But what's important to know is that for the past quarter century, he has been the voice of Yahowah. And the only arrow left in the quiver, as has just been stated, for those who want to become covenant and know Yah, is to yada Yah. Okay? Yada is to know. Yada happens also to be a moniker for Craig, who's also the Choda and the Nakri. Yadayah.com is the way to achieve salvation. And there
It's
is
the way
no other
home.
way. That is the
It's
only
the way
way
home.
home. So when we say yada Yahweh, you have to yada yada to yada Yahowah. In simple terms, it's all there for you, and it's for free, and it's done. You've put yourself into the situation. This is a culmination of over 3,400 years of insolence, and you are checkmated.
You are. Dr.
You are
Jeff, that's an
checkmated.
excellent summation for your people. It's important to everyone to know that's listening and that this is shared. I'm not the chosen one. I know who is. I'm not the Messiah. I know who is. I am not the firstborn son of God, but I know who is.
Oh, can I say it?
I am not your savior, but I know who is. I am not the Gadol Mayor, but I am the Katan Mayor. The most important prophecy in your Torah is of the Gadol and the Katan Mayor. And Israel, you do not know who they are. I do. One of the most important prophecies in the Torah is of the Nakar. Mosheh presented it in Devarim. And it says that he will be your savior when the world devolves back into the conditions experienced in Sodom. And that you need to listen to him. And that his name, title, was brought up again by Solomon on the commencement address of the Home for Yahweh's Name. And it says, you need to listen to what he has to say. You need to do what he asks of you. And that he is that voice coming from the sky. There are very few prophecies that are like the one that's found in Yeshayah, Isaiah 11, about the Choder. He's the only person ever to have the 7 spirits of Yahweh. His time is now. There is a final Zeroah. There are 3 total. You need to know who all 3 are. There was a series of prophecies where God systematically delineated how he would restore his name, his son's reputation, and an understanding of the Bereth covenant and the Moedim, the appointments of the restoring witnesses. And he told you exactly how he was going to make all of this known to you again after millennia of you rejecting him, after millennia of him being divorced from you. And that same individual, listed as the Nakar, observant foreigner, the Choder, the branch from the main tree, the Etz Dayat, the tree of knowledge. He is the one. He is the Bashar, the herald. He is the Kol voice. There are upwards of 1,000 prophecies pertaining to him. Your rabbis know this. They don't want to mention it because they have no answer for it. There is no prophecy about a returning Messiah. And yet that's what they clamor for. But there are 1,000 prophecies about the role that I am playing on your behalf. And Dr. Jeff didn't bring this up for my benefit. It isn't for my benefit. It's exceedingly difficult work. It's work that receives no accolades. It is work that, like Mosheh and what he did, you spit at him. You abused him. It is work that needs to be done, and unfortunately, there wasn't a single Yehud on the planet willing to do it. I got the job every time that I was given this job by default. There was no one else that was willing to do this job. But I'm going to do this job to the very end. You're going to see me again on Passover in 2030. I'm going to be standing beside Elia, a man that you do not know, but should. And we're going to herald the return of the firstborn Son of God, your King, your Savior, Dowd. And if you look at if you have the wherewithal and recognize that what we're telling you is true, Israel's done. It's checkmate. You were played for fools. And there's only now redemption and salvation for those who are harvested on Shabbat and Teruah, and that mortal remnant that enters the garden again in your 6,000 Yah, which is 2033, with the great day of Yahweh being Teruah, 23rd, 24 September of 2033. Maimonides lied to you on the dating. And until you come to appreciate those things, you're going to be on the outside looking in. Now, he did not, again, tell you these things for my benefit. I gain nothing from them. My situation with Yahowah was long resolved, as is Leah's here, as is every member of this covenant family. We're only doing this for you. When Yahowah asked me to expose and condemn Islam in the, what is now the 5 volumes of Goddamn Religion, 5 825-page volumes that explain everything you could possibly need to know about that enemy of Islam. Made it all available to you. Then I wrote 5 volumes to disprove Christianity, because Christianity has been worse towards you than any other religion over the period of time. It's the basis of anti-Semitism that you're suffering from today. But by writing those books, I've received many thousands of death threats. I've had guns put to my temple time and time again. I've never flinched. I'm doing this for you. But I have skin in the game. And it's important that you know that the role that I play as one of those 2 luminaries is I'm slaughtered. I give my life for you, just as Dode was willing to be crucified on Passover in 33 CE as the Passover lamb, sacrificing his Bashar body, and then his Nefesh soul carrying your guilt into Sheol so that you could appear before God. The sacrifice of the, what you think is a red heifer, is the Adamah Parah, and I'm it. And I'll be bludgeoned to death on the Temple Mount, on Teruah, just my body, so it's not a big deal. Although it'll be a major celebration. Yahowah is releasing the cleansing waters from the Temple Mount, and he is igniting the flames. It'll be an eternal flame. Every enemy of Israel, all religious, political, conspiratorial enemies will be incinerated, and the whole earth is going to be returned to the conditions of Eden. It's going to be an extraordinary day. But if you think you're going to wait to find out whether or not you should listen, at that date, you're already going to be on the wrong side of things. And so I'm here to tell you, I'm laying down my life for you, whether you benefit or not. And that the person who actually gets to kill me on that day is the man that you announced as the second coming of Cyrus, that you have viewed as your Messiah, the one that just betrayed you, the one that I knew was going to betray you years and years ago and told you so. No. When he says, this is who I am, and that you go to yada.com and you'll find that I've written 38 books on these topics. I've done things no one else has ever done. Proven Islam is false, proven Christianity is false, proven Judaism is false, and proven that Yahowah is the God of the Torah, and that he is the creator God of the universe. No one's ever done those things before.
And that Dode is kabod.
Yeah, reintroduced his name to you, reintroduced his son's reputation to you, explained the covenant to you, detailed the Moedim for you.
The terms and conditions.
Yeah, this is 25 years. It's a quarter century. 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. Over 100,000 hours. 30,000 pages of detailed translations and explanations. Tens of thousands of unheralded insights. It's a lifetime commitment, and it's ongoing.
And what a beautiful life.
It is a beautiful life. So there is a lot to offer here, and you can be as belligerent as you were to Mosheh. You can be as belligerent as you have been to Dode. You can be as belligerent as you have consistently been to Yahowah. To me, that's your choice. But I'm here to tell you, if you treat what I'm telling you the same way you treated what Yahowah told you, what Mosheh told you, what Dode told you, and if you're as belligerent as you have been to them, to me, you're just done, because I'm your last hope. They gave up on you. All of them gave up on you. And so I'm here as your last hope. And I'm not asking anything from you. So, get that out of your head. I know you're used to rabbis having their hand in your pocket. I want nothing from you. I will accept nothing from you. This is all about you. What you choose to do and whether you're going to continue the same insanity that you've been on for 3,500 years.
Whatever they choose, I would suggest they do it quickly.
Yeah. You need to do it quickly because Israel is done. There will be a remnant left, but in short order, the Iranians flush with money and weapons, they're not going to nuke Israel. They never wanted to nuke Israel. They want to take Israel. They're going to march 4 million mujahideen into Israel. The prophet spoke vociferously about it, in great detail about it. That's what they're going to do. That's what you set up. That's the mess you made. And you will have no defense for it. And no one will come to your aid. Now, I will be there with Elia, and we will be in Jerusalem. And I will protect the area around the Temple Mount in Jerusalem for those of you who are willing to listen. But it's going to be a very tiny remnant of you. And between now and then, most Jews are going to die. And if you're saying that, well, you don't care about Israel because you were one of the Jews that lives in America, well, then you need to know you have no identity. There's no such thing as a Jew. There is a Yehud, but you need to know the difference. And you need to know that the last time anti-Semitism was at this level and there was no Israel. What happened?
6 million.
To those
This
of you
time,
who
by
are
the way, over the next 7
influencers-
years, it's going to be 10 million. That's the number. I don't tell that to you because I want to, but that's what the prophet Zechariah revealed. And the prophets are never wrong.
Just want to say
He
one more
told you it was
thing,
going to be
Fred.
2 out of every 3 Jews who are going to die. And by the way, Goyim, you ought not be applauding here because you're on the outside looking in. You can be a Goy and be part of the covenant. Same Torah, same covenant, same Moedim, same Savior, same God. But if you are a religious or political or conspiratorial or militant patriotic Goyim, then the best you can hope for is to die over these next 7 years. That's the best you can hope for. There will be no heaven, absolutely, unequivocally, for any Christian, Muslim, religious Jew, Hindu, Marxist, none. The best you can hope for is death, because those who are viewed as antagonizing God's people are going to be sent to Sheol. And that's an assurity. So be careful what you say. If you're one of the numbskulls out there like Joe Rogan or Tucker Carlson or Candace Owens, or Nick Fuentes, or Donald Trump or J.D. Vance, and you're speaking against God's people, you're going to Sheol. And it's assured now. For those people, there's no hope. The Pope's going there, and every religious advocate is going there. Most political advocates are going there. But not the average rank and file. If you're an ordinary person, your soul's simply going to dissipate into nothingness. And that's not a penalty. It's not a reward. But man is about to destroy this planet. It's far worse than just that Israel is going to cease to exist. Man's going to destroy this planet. It's going to be hell out there for the next 7 years. Anarchy, economic collapse, nuclear confrontation. It's just going to be exceedingly terrible. And there's no way off alive other than through the covenant. And if you want to find out about it, there's only one place on this planet to learn about it, and that's at yahowah.com. And again, everything there's free. Not selling you anything. Go there, check it out, enjoy what you have to read, participate, learn. We'll ask nothing from you ever. Yeah, in fact, this program we were doing it, and we were talking about the fact that nobody that's part of the covenant family has ever paid me a dime, ever. But there are many members of this covenant family who've fallen on tough times now and again. And I have made contributions to them. So no money ever flows to me. I'm the antithesis of your rabbis.
We would make a terrible cult.
We would. We're complete failures at that. Maybe one of the reasons we
We
qualify
fail.
for this other job.
Yeah.
I don't want your money. I don't want the possessions. I want you to question everything I tell you.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think you've ever encountered somebody quite like this, and JB knows it from the beginning. I wrote these translations using an amplified form that I invented, where I actually put the generic form of every foreign term, and if we're translating Hebrew, it's in the parenthetical, so that you can copy it and paste it into any search engine and validate the authenticity of that translation yourself. No one's ever been willing to do that, to put themselves right on the line. And if my translation is, which it typically is, hugely different than the religious translations, I'll explain why. And you're free to agree, to challenge it. But thus far, I've been doing this now for 25 years. No one has ever found a fault with anything that I've said. And for the last 25 years, I've made, how many times have you checked? Kirk,
all night long for 15 years on the Shattered Miss show.
Years, a decade. Yeah, a decade, every day, multiple times a day for a decade. And JB, you started translating, and occasionally you'd say, "Boy, I don't get how he got that definition." And you'd shoot me an email and said, I've done pages here, and everything checks out, but I don't get this word. How did you come about that word? And it was almost always the same thing, is that I looked at the actionable root of the word. I scrubbed it of its diacritical markings and looked at every cognate of that word, and was able to see that it was a compound word and that these were the components of it. Therefore, this is what it means. And how I was able to show that in other places it was used, it led you to that same conclusion. Yeah. So we did that a lot of times, didn't we?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Got to the point where I learned to do that.
Yeah.
Stop having to ask.
Yeah, you got good at being able to do the same thing. Because I wouldn't just give you the answer. I would tell you this is how I came to the answer, which is a much better way to go about it, isn't it? Yeah. So that's where we are, and that's who we are, and that's who you are, and hopefully
here we are on a map.
Yeah, you and we can be a match. Consider this online dating.
Shall we introduce the song now?
Let's introduce the song now. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the song is Lil Bird.
Lil Bird Knowz.
Lil Bird Knowz. Okay. Yes. And who did the spelling for Knowz?
Oh man, the editors didn't spell check that, did they? Darn it.
No, that's
it's
on
hip.
Purpose. You're just
it's
not
hip.
You're just not.
We know it's on purpose, Leah.
You're just not cool. That's all. If I have to explain,
when your wife tells you you're not cool, that's
cool.
That's a bitter blow, man.
You're lovable. You're just not cool. Okay, so the song came from the idea that Yahowah had spoken to Israel, I think to the point of exhaustion, and said, if only you had been like a under my wing, as he is a bird. He described himself, if you were only to come in out of the shelter of this, under my wing. And that is pretty much the premise of that bird. And very few birds will fly home. Yeah, but for those that do, this song is for them.
There are three birds in God's story.
Yes,
one divine. Yahowah often pictures himself as a bird because he wants to have chicks on his wing that he can raise and protect. But then there are two human birds, both women, one very, very good and one very, very bad. And so God uses metaphors like this throughout. So we'll see how this one plays out. Our last program was probably the most fun we've ever done. It was a song fest. And I don't know how many songs we presented, but it was 2 hours of songs. And I noticed that we only covered about a quarter of the songs that are even in the current group. So we could do another song fest, but that was a lot of fun. And JB, I know you got to you were on the road, so you got to listen to the whole show as a song fest as you were driving. Yeah,
nice
pretty
way
much.
Time.
Yeah, and we had Dr. Jeff as the invisible man behind the song fest. It was great fun.
Well, good news. I wrote 4 songs this week.
Yep. Leah told me that she was taking the summer off on writing songs. Then she told me later that the next day that she had written 4 songs this week.
No,
So-
no, one came before the other.
Oh, okay. So let's play Little Bird.
Easy now, let the rhythm roll slow. I was a child in the shadow, not knowing what I know. Benny Israel, oh, we was carried like seed through the fire and the famine, through the drought and the need. But Yahowah kept the covenant as a light at my feet in the night, like a lily in the valley and a fire in the height. And God, he came with a crown. The jewels are his own people, and the rule will never depart his hand. But the story got bent by the evil house of Shaw and by the wicked mouths of men. They took the songs and made them bitter. They took the name, made it not. Try to whitewash the truth and shift the blame, but I still sing like a bird. I sing a song of delight. Oh, this little bird knows Yahowah's love don't ever let go. From the house to the road, from the lost to the light. Yada in the morning and I'm alright. Yeah, I'm alright. Little bird in your sight. Yahowah, Yahowah, you hold me tight. There was a brother and a mother and a promise that stood. A kingsman redeemer in the neighborhood. She knew the name, she walked the path. She carried the family through the aftermath. They tried to ride her out, but the clay still sings. Her boldness was the root of kings. If you know, then you know, and if you hear, then stay. The remnant gets found in the outer way. Soft breeze, palm trees under the moonlight. Yahowah, keep the orphans and widows held inside. No more wandering, no more pain. Call on the name and we live again. But I still sing, oh, I still know Yahowah's love don't never let go. From the dusk to the dawn, from the lost to the right. Yada in the morning, I'm alright. Yeah, I'm alright. Held in your sight. Yahowah, Yahowah, bring the light.
I don't know, Leah. You made me look reasonably cool.
I thought
Well,
Looking
that-
cool and being
Can you
cool.
hear me, Nick?
Yeah, cool enough to get the pretty girl anyway, huh?
Hey, you know, absolutely.
Yeah, hey, we're talking about being cool. There's Mr. Cool right there.
There you go.
Mr. Wookie.
Wookie,
Cool.
wookie, wookie.
Yeah, there's the Wookiee. He decided that he wanted to finish my cappuccino, which he did. There's my. If I can get it here, I'll get. Oh, I guess I can put it over there. There it is. There's the cappuccino. It's now been Wookiee, and I had some watermelon juice, and he decided that he would take down the level. I guess it was too tall for the show. Thank you.
That's grapefruit juice.
Oh, grapefruit juice. Yeah. Well, thank you, Wookie. You actually drank grapefruit juice. That is
Really?
He's not supposed to drink that.
That's crazy, Wook.
Wow.
That is a beautiful song, a fun song, upbeat song. Nice to see everybody getting along as a happy family throughout that song. Loved it.
It's a summer song.
Yeah, beautiful done. Day, beautiful song. And that's where we're headed, by the way. We're going back to the garden. So if you like paradise awaits 7 years from now. At the end of the time of Jacob's trouble, we are back into the garden. It's going to be a paradise just like that. And then nothing but smiles. So it's a marvelous thing that we have to look forward to. All right. What I would like to be able to do is to resume in the series Luminaries. We've been doing the Luminary program out in the Ocean Studio the last 3 evenings as the sun sets. It's really been beautiful presentations of the evening out there. Remarkably beautiful. And we had just opened what is now chapter 10 of the unpublished volume 6 of Coming Home. It's called Maorith, Luminaries. And it's a progression of everything God has to say about the 2 most important players in his story, who he calls luminaries, Maorith. He calls them signs of the Moedim. So these are the individuals who volunteered to fulfill the Moedim. And that's no cakewalk because, well, Passover, Dode was crucified in 33 CE, fulfilling Pesach, and his soul went into Sheol, hell, to carry our guilt away on Matzah, so that he could celebrate Bikurim as the Bakur of Yahowah, which is firstborn children. And I mean, Shabbat, as we approach it, will be bittersweet. It'll be a lovely harvest for the covenant family coming up on June 11th of 2027, but we'll be a full year into the time of Jacob's troubles by then. And so it's going to be very painful as a departure, and we're going to be gone for almost 3 years, returning on Passover in 2030, as Israel has accepted Trump into Jerusalem. He's going to leave the White House, the United States, in the 29th of January in 2030 during Ramadan, and he's going to announce that he is a god on the Ides of March in 2030, and the 18th of April, which will be Passover, is the day that Elia and I will arrive. Fortunately, the Dome of the Rock in Al-Aqsa Mosque will be destroyed by that time, so that the Temple Mount will be a decent place for us to set up shop. God's going to bring back a restoration of the tent of the restoring witness. The Ark of the Covenant is going to be brought back. We're going to have the 10 tablets of stone. We'll have an original autograph of the Torah at the time. It's going to really be an extraordinary situation. There'll be a message board that plays above us. That'll be really quite something. It will play these programs and excerpts from the books. And it will be above our heads the entire time that we're there. And of course, we're going to be impenetrable. Everyone's going to do everything they can to take us out, kill us, and silence us. But that's just not going to be possible. So you get 3.5 years of an earful of what we have to say. I would strongly recommend listening now. It'll be a lot easier than listening then. So we're going to continue with Luminaries, and feel free to chime in as we go along, please. And the chapter 10 of this story is called Itsabown. Itsabown is not a word that most people are familiar with, but it means laborious. And if I were to say laborious, you would probably think that's a pejorative, wouldn't you? Oh, God, work. I got to go to work. Thank God it's what, TGIF. I got the weekend. People have a view of work as if work is a bad thing. But if you view work as a bad thing, you're in real trouble. It's one of the real issues right now of the entitlement generation, where people think that they're entitled to their education, they're entitled to health care, they're entitled to a living wage, they're entitled to everything. They just don't want to work for anything. And you have no value if you don't work. And we're also entering a period where the purpose of AI is to replace virtually all employees. Robots with AI are going to make things, harvest fields, plant fields, work in the factories, work in distribution centers, work in offices, do accounting, do lawyering work. The AIs are going to replace humans. There'll be no humans to work. And if you lose the ability to work and make a contribution, you've lost your humanity. The only thing left would be the willingness and ability to think using your Nesama conscience, and the AI will usurp that too. You're going to lose both aspects of being human. It's catastrophic what's coming in that regard. Yahowah is very explicit on something that no one seems to get, and that's work. In Judaism, they've turned the Shabbat into do-nothing day. And they made it the most laborious day of the week in the sense of all the ways you have to go about making certain that you do nothing. But Shabbat is a verb in Hebrew. Verbs are actionable. Shabbat is a day to refrain from your normal job, which you should do 6 days a week, so that you can celebrate your relationship with Yahowah. That's the purpose of the Shabbat. And when you understand what God's going to say is the consequence of Adam, the first man, God's firstborn, and Chawah, the first woman created in man's image, with a Nesama, for disregarding God's instructions, these are not penalties. These are consequences. And the consequence is that work's going to be more difficult than it would have been otherwise. But work is the thing that was necessary in Eden that Dod didn't do. Dod is Adam, but Adam did not do. He didn't contribute anything. God, before he even conceives man, says that he was going to conceive man to work in the garden, Abad. And then when he does conceive man, the first thing he says is, we're going to work together. Work to make this garden better, work at the relationship. But yet man did nothing. He was lethargic. He was apathetic. He had an entitlement attitude, and it didn't work. And God was therefore disappointed. And he knew that the only chance he had of Adam growing up, manning up, making a contribution and not being a dependent was to kick him out of the house and put him in a position where he would have to work to survive. And then he would learn the value of life and death. Then he would learn the value of work. And know that if you don't work, what happens to you? And if you starve. And if you do work, you make a contribution to your family, to yourself, to your community. And so God celebrates work. And it is work that was the cause of the fall. Wasn't eating an apple. It was a lack of work. A lack of...
Craig, might I say, on the other side of the coin, the most significant and important Mizmor ever penned, Mizmor 89.
Yes.
He refers to his firstborn, his firstborn son, Dod, as his co-worker. He uses the word abad. And he also refers to...
Four times he refers to Dod as the one that I worked with. My co-worker.
And a related word which comes up, which is important, is Obed.
Yes.
Which is a related term. So it's we've heard the term a labor of love. It's you should love to labor.
Yeah, we're introduced to Obed Edom when Dod is in his departure mode from Yahowah. He turns against Yahowah when he is bringing the Ark of the Covenant into Jerusalem, and a man interferes with the message that God's trying to send of how it's going to be a bull that's going to pull and relocate the Ark of the Covenant in its proper place. And that bull plays a story all the way through from beginning to end of God's story. There's three animals that God uses: the bull, the ram, and the goat. They are Dod, myself, and Elia. And the bull is bringing the Ark of the Covenant into Jerusalem. It wasn't about to fall over. It was going over a threshing floor, which means it was really flat then. But somebody wanted to show off and interfere, and God said, you know, you're going to interfere with something that's an essential part of my message. You're dead. Goodbye. I didn't fool around with this kind of stuff. And Dode had a conniption fit. And so God said, all right, well, I'm going to teach my son a lesson. I'm going to turn the ark over to a fellow named Obed-Edom. And if you were to get right to the root of Obed-Edom, Obed is from Ebed, written exactly the same way as Ebed. It's not just from it, it is Ebed, which means works. And Edom is written the same way as Adam. And so Obed-Edom means worked for Adam, worked for man. And that same man that we're told comes out of the wine press to relocate the Ark of the Covenant on Dode's behalf for Dode in Jerusalem. He is presented by the prophet Yahowah as the man from Edom who comes out of that same wine vat, who is dressed in red, who is the Adam of Parah. And he is the one that Yahowah says saves many. It's the same individual. You had a point, Kirk?
Yeah, I was talking to Sylvia the other day, about a week ago. I was thinking about the garden story, and there was something about it that I had not seen before, and I may be incorrect, but y'all correct me if I'm wrong. Satan seduces her, Chawah. Chawah seduces him. But then he does something really, really strange, and I hadn't thought about it till I really examined it. When they find, and I'm not knocking our king, gosh, forgive me if I am, but he's sitting in there, he's not just eating the fruit, he's destroying the tree of knowledge. That's you. He's fighting against the two people who are the whole story here to me. I mean, obviously there's Leah and Mom is Emma. But my God, he had to get him out of that garden.
Yeah. The instruction was, do not make a habit of eating from the tree of knowledge, because it was premature. There was nothing in the tree of knowledge would have done either one of the two of them any good, because the tree of knowledge of good and evil, they already knew Yahweh, and their life was all good. And so all they were going to pick up is the knowledge of that which is wrong. And well, the knowledge of which is wrong has now become essential, because you've got to clear the path to God of all of the corruptions that are religious corruptions. So now it is essential. It was premature for that time. And because it was written in the imperfect conjugation, the instruction from God was, don't make a habit from eating in it. And Adam didn't just take a bite.
He devoured it.
He hung out. He was in the midst of the tree. He was in the tree, devouring as much of it as he could eat. He had the fruit of that tree all over his face when Yahweh says, why are you there? Why did you run? Why are you concerned that you are naked? Who told you that you were naked? You know, it was, he was sitting there in the tree. It was a travesty. He was doubling down. And all he had to do at that point was to set the fruit down. And after a bite, and he said, wait a minute. Yahweh said, don't make a habit of eating from this tree. And all would have been fine. They would have continued on in the garden. But they didn't listen. And you know, to have a relationship with Yahweh, you have to listen to him. That's the travesty of the New Testament, the travesty of the Talmud, travesty of the Quran, is that they are written over Yahweh's testimony, and so no one actually listens to Yahweh anymore. But you have to listen to Yahweh. You have to respond to what he has to say. And to do that intelligently, you have to think about it. You have to process the information he's conveyed to you. And that ultimately, you need to do what Noach did. You know, Noach and his family were saved, not just because they were isolated from everybody else, not just because they went and built the Tebah. It's because they did as Yahweh had asked, and they worked at it. And that's what they didn't do in the garden. So we're going to find out just how important it is to Yahweh that we work. That's why it's Itsabown, labor. So for this to be a new beginning, and that was the intent. God did not kick man and woman out of the garden to be punitive. And he did not kick them out for a single violation of eating the fruit of the tree of knowledge. He made the determination that they were going to be expelled from the garden before he even created Chawah. So we can't blame Chawah for man's fall. He said emphatically, I'm causing the fall of man. And he said it's not good for man to be alone, which means that he had decided that he was going to walk away from the daily contact that he had with Adam, because Adam was not interesting, because Adam wouldn't engage. God realized that what every parent of a lethargic child realizes. If you have a lethargic child you've been unable to inspire, to learn and to grow out on their own and make a contribution, the only thing you can do is to love that child enough to set them out on their own. Because if you coddle that child in your house, you will have a vegetable. And that's what Yahowah was trying to prevent. That's why they were being sent out of the garden. So now, with that being the new opportunity to reboot, to reestablish some parameters, revealing how we would get from, there, which was not a very encouraging place, to here, which now is, the issues would have to be resolved. And they were the following. They were a short attention span. I don't know if you know this, but how the brain works in terms of if you hear something, like you heard me talk, every one of you heard me talk on the radio, which is how you ended up going to yada.com and beginning to read. If you hear me say something, unless it is so dramatic that it just say, whoa, did I hear him say that?
It happens a lot.
Yeah, which does, by the way, happen a lot. And it just so shakes you to your core that you're going to remember it. But if it's just something in passing, it doesn't shake you to your core, you're going to forget it unless you do something to transfer that short-term memory into long-term memory. And the best way to do that is to engage on multiple levels with what you're doing. So if you go to you hear it, you go to the website to read it, and then you go out to verify whether or not it's true, and then you think about it, and then you try to apply it to your life. By that point, you own it. You've made that transition from short-term to long-term memory. Obviously, Adam did not do that. That's why he didn't pay any attention to what God's instructions were. So, short attention span, the fragility of human relationships. Adam and Chawah didn't get along very well. It's just a fact. I mean, they were wearing nothing but a smile, and she was really, really pretty, and he was a handsome fellow, and yet they didn't consummate their relationship, at least productively, with a child until well out of the garden. So that tells me they weren't getting along real well, and she brought him in on her scheme, and that's not exactly a complimentary thing to do either. And he did not have the wherewithal to challenge her. You don't have if you're unwilling to challenge your mate when they're wrong, you don't care much for them. You're just a wimp at that point. And so they didn't have a very good relationship. And it's clear that there was misplaced trust. It's clear there was a sense of entitlement. And Chawah made the decision she made because she wanted to be like God. She wanted to be a goddess. That's a sense of entitlement. That's the problem with our society today. A failure to appreciate the value of work is probably the single most important issue. If somebody gives you a beautiful home and it's all furnished and it's in the nicest neighborhood and it comes with a gardener and a pool man and you mechanics and full staff, and you don't have to do anything and it's just given to you, you have no appreciation for it. But if you worked for it, if you planted some of those flowers and plants, if you're watering them and nurturing them, if you picked out that furniture and you've placed it all in these places that you want it to be, and that you've fixed the plumbing and worked on the electric, and you've made a contribution to your home, then you value it. And the case with Eden was they didn't value it. And they made no contribution to it. And so they didn't value work, and they had a preference for lies over truth. So the path back would remain really quite long, and it would be challenging. And it would begin with some boundaries. So here's what God had to say. Yahowah, which is the proper pronunciation of Yod He Wah He as directed by the Torah. Torah tells you how to pronounce the Wah as the O. That's where the O sound comes in Torah. And the Ah sound at the end of Torah is the same Ah sound as the end of Yahowah. So it's as directed by his Torah teaching regarding his high existence. Yahowah, when he introduced his name to Mosheh, who, by the way, knew his name before he asked. His mother was named Yochebed. Yahowah is significant. So he was fully up to speed with who he was and what his calling was going to be. He just didn't want to go back to Mitzrayim because the last time he was there, the people he was trying to protect and save mocked him and treated him like crap. And he says, why would I want to go back there? Those people are really nasty. But Haya is the verb that Yahowah says is the basis of his name. It is a verb. It means to exist, and it has the hey and the yod on another hey. And so with that in Torah or with shalom, you get the O and shalom from the wall. You know how to pronounce Yahowah's name. It's not a secret. Never been a secret, but no one knew it. Why didn't they know it? Because they weren't observant. Why weren't they observant? Because they didn't care. They'd prefer the lies of religion, Hashem, Jesus, Allah. And those are overt lies, easy to disprove, but you've got to care. You got to have the want to if you're going to disprove the lies and learn the truth. It's Yahowah. And I don't give a crap what you want to believe, that something else or that there's a different way to pronounce it. No, it is Yahowah. I prove it conclusively, undeniably, and overwhelmingly in volume 1 of An Introduction to God. It's Yahowah. So Yahowah, as God, he said with ongoing consequences, Amar, written in the imperfect, to the Nachash, the spellbinding serpent, as a consequence of you having acted this way. Accursed you are, such that you will invoke and become the embodiment of embitterment and debasement and of injury. So when you read that the children of Israel were embittered during the entire Exodus, who had their ear?
Hasatan.
Yeah, Hasatan. You're going to be harmful. You're the personification of misfortune and affliction and retribution. More than any other beast, more than any form of life. You know, there's so many people now that are saying that, well, Baal is the great dragon. It's Baal's fault. No, Baal is just a name, one title that Satan has coveted. He is Hasatan. He is the adversary. And as the adversary, he conscripts titles and names that are actually positive ones. Baal means husband. Yahowah himself refers to himself as a Baal. Asherah. Asherah means beneficial and to show the ways to the benefits of a relationship. And so he confiscates positive names and titles to try to make himself appear like he's God. More than any other life form of the open environs, the Sedeh. On your belly, you shall move about, and ash and dirt you shall eat all the days of your lives. He is an eternal being. God cannot end his life. That's the reason that Sheol exists, to incarcerate him. And what is it that mortal men are made of? Ash and dirt.
Dust.
That's what he's going to devour. He's going to devour man. And he's going to be that serpentine creature that slithers about in this process. This is Bereshith in the beginning, Genesis 3:14. So for there to be justice, there must be consequence. Boy, is Israel ever learning that now with its ill-fated war against Iran, as well as its destruction of Gaza. For there to be justice, there must be consequence, as well as recompense. For a judge to be moral, he must hold those who act inappropriately accountable. While he was programmed to do as he did, Satan nevertheless used misrepresentations and errant citations, a straw man argument, and the guise of intellectual superiority to push all of Chawah's buttons, giving her the justification she sought to write herself into the story. She wanted to be a goddess, just as Satan wants to be a god, co-opting the knowledge of the tree she coveted. It devoured her relationship with her man. It robbed them of their home, and it garnered a rebuke from God. Cause and consequence. Satan's sentence, however, was not death, as you have just heard. Spirits, unlike souls, are immortal. Even God cannot kill them. Satan will be incarcerated during the fulfillment of Chag Sukkah in year 6000, and he will remain in Sheol forever. He is a tool that will have outlived his purpose, his usefulness, and he'll be tossed away to make room for more refined implements and to improve the workshop. However, it's not so much a punishment for Hasatan. He actually did as he was programmed. So people don't understand about the Ruach as a cherubim that is Hasatan, the adversary. The Malachim as spiritual messengers, and there's 50% of the time that Malach is used, it speaks of a human messenger. But of the times it refers to the Shabbat, the heavenly host, the spiritual messengers, they are created as a command and control regimen to do as God asks. They are programmed to do what God wants done. They're timeless beings, so it doesn't matter how long the job is. Time simply exists for them. And they do what God wants. And I'm here to tell you that Hasatan didn't go rogue. He didn't violate his program. He didn't even have the capacity to do that. He was programmed to do as he did. And you might say, well, why would God program someone to deceive?
Choice.
Yeah.
Free will.
Well, free will is half of it, yes. Free will is an important part of it. You can't choose God unless there is a credible option of not God, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that is, so free will only works if there's a genuine choice, and the way to create a genuine choice is to program a believable alternative. And Satan certainly did that. There actually is another reason, and it's far more profound and far more uncomfortable for people probably to deal with. The actual reason is that God doesn't like people very much. I know it sounds
No,
sad,
it doesn't.
but it's true.
Read this book.
Yeah, it's he doesn't like people very much.
Yeah,
He regrets creating humanity.
Yeah.
You know, I may not be all that great a guy. And so I can complain to Yahowah and say, you know, why didn't you deploy somebody else? You've been using me for 6,000 years now. You think that and you put me in the toughest spots of all. And sometimes I've hung there for a very, very, very long time. Couldn't you find somebody else, you know, because these are all tough jobs that you've given. There's only one time where it's fun from beginning to end and just joyful. And that's as Boaz and Ruth in that story. But you know, the answer is because there was nobody else. Because when God said that, the first thing he tells us after Adam and Chawah are out of the garden, and that Nasalma man conceived many men and women. He says, I regret creating them. When they became many, I regretted creating them. It's just a fact of humanity that while it's rare, a man or a woman can be positive, can respond to God, can listen to him, can engage with him, can earn God's trust and develop a relationship. Can be good. But collectively, we're always bad, all the time, without exception. And so many men are always bad. So Satan was programmed to make certain there wouldn't be many of us in Shamayim. Because when there's a lot of us, we're really rotten to the core. We're terrible.
A dummy magnet.
Yes. So he was a dummy magnet. He was an evil magnet. He had to pull people away from the covenant, pull people away from the Moedim, pull people away from Yahowah. Had to create this false god of Jesus Christ, false god of Allah, false god of Hashem. His purpose is to create the religious god that draw people away from Yahowah, because Yahowah does not want to spend an eternity with a lot of us, because he knows we can't be trusted. And that's the bottom line. And when I ask Yahowah, so why deploy the same people over and over again to rid the world of these problems? And the answer is because there's just no other alternative. That's why.
There's not that many people to redeploy.
No, there's not very many people that he can redeploy. It's
trustworthy.
Yeah. So Satan exists because God doesn't like people very much. He was right on the edge of ending the Nasalma man experiment. If you don't know what a Nasalma man is, humans, apart from the gift of the Nasalma, which is a conscience as opposed to consciousness, the Nefesh is consciousness. All animals, including all Homo sapiens outside the garden, had consciousness, had a soul. It's a construct that exists outside of the three dimensions that we understand. It is the only part of us that has any value going forward. All animals have one. It's the ability of an animal to observe and respond to their environment. And God didn't have a problem with Nefesh animals. It's when he gave these two people, a neshama, a conscience, the ability to reason, ability to be moral, to think, to discern, to discriminate, to make logical connections, to be wise, that we used that tool for evil. We created weapons, we created religions, and we made ourselves obnoxious. And it put God in a difficult position. So if you think it's unfair that God would create a being that he doesn't like, and it's going to have most of those beings simply die, well, that's not a penalty. You get your life. You get to live on this marvelous, beautiful planet, wherever long that is, with free will and with a neshama conscience. And at the end of your life, it's just the end of your life. There's no penalty. There's no reward. That's all a plus. God didn't take anything from you. He gave you something marvelous, absolutely wonderful, the gift of life. But God can't do anything more with you because he doesn't know you, doesn't trust you. And he knows he can't trust you because when there's lots of you, you are untrustworthy. And he couldn't even trust his firstborn. And when you realize what God wants to offer, God is a 7-dimensional construct. He created a 3-dimensional being with a 7-dimensional soul, but a 3-dimensional being in a perfectly protected garden. That's what our planet is. And what he's offering, the only way we can be of interest to him ultimately is so that we can be empowered so that we're also 7 dimensions, so we can go explore the universe. But to make us 7 dimensions, we are able to think or speak the material world into submission. We can say to that bookshelf behind me, I want you to be the ocean, and it turns to water. We can say to a star, I want you to go dark now, and it will. And so we can do enormous damage to life and to the universe and to many other things if we aren't willing to listen to what Yahowah says going forward. Here's some guidance. You can do this, shouldn't do that. And if we're not willing to listen and we're not trustworthy, we'll screw everything up. And so God wants men and women that he can share his universe with and share life with and share experiences with and raises his children, but that he knows he can trust. And there's not a lot of those. So that's the reason Satan exists, is to make certain that there's not a lot of those. And so that he can also make certain that those who measure up to what he is looking for will have done something extraordinary. They will have separated themselves from the world of pervasive religion and politics and militarism and conspiracy to come clean of those things and then come to know him. That's an extraordinary amount of effort. And you're going to make mistakes. You're going to be kicked along the way. You're going to be spat at. And you're going to have the chance to prove to God that you can learn from your mistakes and you can get up when you're fallen. You can remove obstacles from the path and you can reach out and help others and you can make a contribution to humanity and to this relationship. Hasatan is there to keep those who don't belong out. So he did as he was programmed. Quite certain that you've never heard that before. Or if you're part of this company, you've heard it before because we've talked about it before, but
not out there.
Yeah. Perry, have you ever heard that before?
Just from you.
Yeah. But it's the way it is.
And they can't comprehend it. They can't comprehend. Shut your pie hole and listen.
Yes. Chawah would have been much better off if she had listened to Yahowah and to Adam and not listened to Hasatan, but much better off if she had not opened her yap and made a mess of things. And she did. But then again, what's her name mean? What does Chawah mean?
She speaks her
mind. She speaks her mind.
She speaks her mind. That's what it means. Yeah, it does not mean life. That would be Che. It's Chawah. It means to speak your mind. And she did. And that mind had some really nasty things in it. Yep. She wanted the same thing Hasatan wanted. He wanted to be like God. That's what he was programmed for. She wanted the same thing.
You mentioned, Craig, the problem that we have today. Mm-hmm. It's an ancient one. The word Shema, think of how important it is. It's used in Devarim, 6:4. Most simple, foundational statement he's made. And even the rabbis just screw it up.
Oh, Yisrael. Yahweh is our God. Yahweh is one. They removed Yahweh's name both times, erased it. And they turned Shama, listen, into a prayer of yabbering. You can't screw it up worse than that. Now, as I talk about Hasatan, he was programmed to do these things. You say, well, you're being sent to Sheol. That's a terrible punishment. Not for him. It's simply relocation for him. And he's going to be the ultimate potentate and purveyor of everything that is going to be ubiquitous in that place. And so he's going to be surrounded by those who believed him, those who worked for him. The likes of the Donald Trumps is now Satan incarnate is going to find out, well, Satan betrays you. Look what he did to Paul. And look what he did to Shaul. Look what he did to Muhammad. He always betrays those he possesses. So he has long been the god of religion and politics, and he's going to continue to be the lord of religion and politics and Sheol. So it's not a punishment for him. Now, the penitentiary over all of Sheol, which is indistinguishable from my black hole, time is infinite, but nothing escapes, was made particularly for Hasatan and his colleagues. It is a lightless prison separated from God. It is essentially a single dimension existing eternally throughout time, where the pressures are so intense, minute particles which comprise matter are consumed, and ultimately nothing escapes, and only time survives. That is a definition of Sheol. There are no fires. There are no tortures. It's just eternal separation. And you don't get there unless you have abused God's people or led people astray. If you're promoting conspiracies and anti-Semitism, well, consider yourself with a confirmed reservation. So there are three ways to interpret God's message, I think, to the adversary. The simplest would have been to have understood it by this would have been appreciated, I think, by the first person to hear the story. Satan's approach inflicted pain and suffering, and he was going to be held accountable. Groveling on one's belly and eating ash and dirt, it's not a particularly appealing thing. Oh, okay. Simple. Spiritually, Satan was cast down, and as a result, his days are spent in the material realm, feeding off of humanity's filth. Moreover, since man was created from the very substance Satan was predicted to consume, we know that the adversary intended to prey upon man. So it's little wonder religions are deadly and that Allah is presented as genocidal. Scientifically, the century's leading astrophysicist, which would be Stephen Hawking, invested the last decade of his life advancing the theory which is suggested here, that matter can be consumed. He postulated that this condition exists within the confines of black holes. While most scientists have remained skeptical of his conclusions, largely because the fundamentals of physics are based upon the conservation of matter, Hawking, who died in 2018, was inadvertently confirming what Yahowah has revealed here. So before we would move on to what Yahowah said next regarding the serpent, as stated previously, there is every reason to conclude that Satan was conceived and that he was programmed expressly for this purpose. Matter of fact, I think that what he told Chawah, since it was technically accurate but entirely misleading, I think his speech was written by God. So I think that when Yahowah says through Yahowah, I created good and evil. And he had to at this point. He had a real problem with man. He had to resolve this problem. He had to either end the entire experiment and wipe us all out, which he didn't want to do, or he had to figure out a way to cull us, have a sieve. And that's what he did. So the reason for sending the adversary to Sheol is to put him out of commission on Teruah in 2033, after having his political and religious compatriots, led by Donald Trump, of course, slaughter the Adam and Chawah. Satan will have fulfilled his mission and will no longer have any value. And that's why, you can say, why will Satan take your life on Teruah as the Adam and Chawah when it's written so often that that's his last move, and that at that point he is sent off to Sheol? So why would he just follow through on it? Why would he do what ultimately sets up this sacrifice that purges the mortal remnant of Yisrael of their guilt in accordance with Numbers 19 and Numbers 5? Well, the answer is really simple. He is programmed to do what he's doing. He didn't have any choice, actually, when he possessed Donald Trump. Donald Trump had the choice. He went to Hasatan, and after he had lost all those legal cases, after he had lost the election and was going bankrupt and was going to jail, he made a deal with the devil. But Satan was always going to possess him. And so now we've seen it happen. So it all plays out as exactly as God has orchestrated. Now, that doesn't mean that he changes the free will of individuals, but when it comes to someone that's programmed like Hasatan, he does as he's programmed. So Satan will have fulfilled his mission. He will have no value. He will choke on the ash of the resulting sacrifice, which is going to be rendered as ash. It's a burnt offering. It's just like what Elia did 2,888 years prior to this. God's going to ignite the fire. There's going to be copious amounts of water released. The flames are going to soar to heaven. And it's the ash that is the purging influence in accordance with Bad Midbar, Numbers 5, to purify the adulterous woman. All these prophecies are going to come to fruition and together. And this, of course, is going to be to the chagrin of Christians and Muslims who thinks that their God is either a man or that he is the one that's going to punish everybody in hell and reward the jihadists. And oops, not going to work out the way they had anticipated. The prophetic portrayal which follows applies to the relationship between Satan and mankind, especially as it is manifest in the role of religion and politics and have the role that they have played, beguiling and suppressing the majority of people. But it's, I think, especially poignant when seen from the perspective of Israel. As we consider what God says next, think about how Satan's most popular religions, Christianity, Islam, and particularly as it relates to the Israelites, Judaism, have crippled the chosen people. No population on earth has been treated with more rancor longer than those who call themselves Jews, even as this is a curse that they have brought upon themselves, like the checkmate with Haran. When realizing that rabbis created all three religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, Paul was a rabbi. They taught him to do what he did. And they failed to correct him when he created a false caricature through identity theft of Daud, the actual son of God and Messiah. And rabbis sold Muhammad the Talmud readings that became the Quran. And Rabbi Akiba created rabbinic Judaism when he foisted a false Messiah of his own in Bar Kokhba. He brought the wrath of Rome on Israel. He called it the diaspora, led to the Holocaust. The Israelites are responsible for all three religions. So as we move into the next statement, we are left to ponder the intent of Shoof. It is commonly rendered crush when being perpetrated against the serpent, and then strike when rendered against man. Since it is frequently or infrequently used, I should say, the only trustworthy source regarding the intended meaning is actually from Daud, because he used Shoof in the 139th Mizmor, one that we will present and consider forthwith due to its implications. And in it, Daud, speaking to Yahowah, wrote the following. And we have to do this, otherwise, if a word is used infrequently and there's no obvious root of that word, the only way to know how to properly translate it is to go to sources that you know are credible. The Daud's credible. When he wrote his Mizmor in the last 10 years of his life, he was back into a ideal relationship with Yahowah. He said, "So I say, surely, darkness and obscurity will shoof me. So I say, surely, darkness and obscurity will shoof me. But the night will be illuminating after me." So in this case, cover or envelop would seem to be the most obvious and appropriate renderings of Shoof, wouldn't you say? So I say, surely darkness and obscurity will cover me, will envelop me, but the night will be illuminating after me. Why? Because he's the Gadol Meor, right? He's the Gadol Meor, and his people and religions are going to obscure who he is. But he will be brought back into favor. His brilliance is going to be restored by the Khatan Mayor that is the one who rules the night. The moon's going to reflect the sun's brilliance and bring him back to prominence, and that's what this is saying. And it's said, this is said hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. So with this in mind, Yahowah told his son's adversary hostility and animosity. So we've defined Shoof, and we've actually defined Shoof, set it in the context of the Khatan and Gadol Mayor, which is handy. Hostility and animosity and adversarial hatred, enmity, and deep-seated dislike, even rancor and bitterness. I will constitute and establish, I will place and impose between you and between the woman, and between that which you sow, Zerah, and her offspring, Zerah. He himself will repeatedly Shoof, cover and conceal you, first and foremost. And you yourself will emphatically strike and continually bite and pierce, enveloping him as a treacherous foe, a deceiver, by the heel, impeding the footsteps and the stance. Hu Akib. Barashith, in the beginning, Genesis 3:50. I understand this doesn't sound all that smooth if you present it literally as it was conveyed, but I'm not looking for fluidity here. We're looking for understanding here. So we want to render the words as accurately as possible, and then we can contemplate their meaning intuitively and logically. That's our point. So let's do that now. So having done something that I don't think anyone has ever attempted previously by systematically repudiating the ungods and false prophets of the New Testament, of the Talmud and the Quran, I can attest that Satan hates women. Paul hated women. He was a homosexual. And he told men to lord over women. Islam is the most misogynist religion ever conceived. Men own women. Women have no rights. Muhammad was a rapist. He was a pedophile. You don't become a racist and a pedophile unless you hate women. And in Judaism, women have no rights. They can't be around men. They can't even go to the synagogue and be with their family. They have to shave their heads when they get married, a sign of submission. They can't even get a divorce without their husband's approval. It's a tragedy. In religion, women are disrespected.
And
Satan
yet,
hates religion.
And yet women by far are the most religious on earth. I mean, it's women that in general bring their families to the churches, bring their families into, and promote it more than anything else. I never
You know why that
understood it.
is? Okay, well, we're going to understand it here in a minute. Hopefully we'll get far enough into this text where we get to God's statements that describe the consequence to women. And when we get to that part, you will know why women do things that support, because religions are all conceived by men and they serve men. You're going to find out why women are drawn to those things which serve men, that were created by men, even when it is detrimental to them. God explained it. So you're going to know the answer. So clearly in all religions, women are belittled, they're degraded. And this is especially true in the scriptures of Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. Therefore, based on Yahowah's prophetic pronouncement, the fastest and perhaps surest way to ascertain Satan's influence on a religious text is to consider how women are perceived. That would certainly impugn Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, would it not?
Yes, indeed.
So this would lead us to the realization that those who invented Jesus, Hashem, and Allah were in league with Satan. It's also true that as a result of these religions, mankind has been embittered against God, preferring to worship Satan as a lord. This is the single worst thing that has ever befallen humankind. Now, regarding the approach they would take toward one another, we can now project the implications that we have witnessed regarding the verb shoof. God forewarned that mankind would shoof, cover up Satan's presence in their religions. That's the prophecy. And that's what they have done. In fact, it is how Satan has concealed his adversarial nature and then managed to elevate himself to the foremost object of worship. Satan speaks against Satan in Christianity and Islam and in Judaism because he hates the adversarial title. And to be perceived as God, he has to shed the Hasatan adversarial title and be perceived as a Lord. And you look at the leading two religious advocates, Paul, who wrote the first 14 books of the Christian New Testament, and Muhammad, who is solely responsible for creating the Quran, although the rabbis sold him the stories that populated. Both of those men admitted they were demon-possessed. And they created a religion where they presented their God in the guise of Satan. So they have, and now the whole idea is in both religions, there are arguments against Satan, with Satan making the arguments against Satan, because Satan doesn't want to be the adversary. He wants to be God. When you understand why there is a Satan presented and condemned in the New Testament and in the Quran, but not in the Torah, prophets, and Psalms. Why there is a Satan that is condemned in the New Testament and Quran, then you will understand who Satan is and how he operates. You know, when Satan is fully disclosed in Isaiah 14. It's not to condemn Satan. It's to reveal who Satan is. It's the Christianity and Islam that condemn Satan. And they condemn Satan because they are Satan. Your pardon?
I was going to say, when you think about it, Satan being a title, not a name, who is his adversary? His adversary is Yahweh.
Yes.
So that's who he's condemning when he condemns Satan.
Yes. Well, that's true. But the most important thing to realize is that Satan, as the God of Christianity and Islam, is condemning Satan because he has to condemn the satanic title that God gives him to be perceived as God. No one is going to worship a God who is overtly known as Satan. Yeah. So the only way he can be viewed as the Lord Jesus Christ as a man who is a God, or as Allah, who is this satanic, demented creature, is to attack the Hasatan title, which is what he does. I know that sounds complicated for people, but it isn't all that complicated. No. And I came to understand this in studying the rites of the 33rd degree Masons and morals and dogma, which is you get to a satanic level. At that level, your God is Satan, and Satan comes out of the closet and says, I'm your God. And the morals and dogma, written by Pike, he overtly explains that Satan must oppose this satanic title that he's been given to be perceived as a God. And so I'm not the first to come up with this realization. Andrew Pike was for Freemasons' Moral and Dogma for the 33 degree. And when I read that, and I was translating the Quran and working on God, our Prophet of Doom at the time, is now Goddamn Religion, it was just the lights went on. I said, well, now I get it. That's why Satan condemns Satan in the New Testament and in the Quran. He must shed that title. Yahweh doesn't want him to shed the title. He wants him to be known as Hasatan. And so he doesn't condemn Hasatan. He just said, this is who he is. This is his role. This is what he does. And his primary trick is Babel, which is the same word that you would get Bible, to confound, to confuse, by intermixing truth and lies, which is precisely what he did with Chawah. So that's a really important insight. And so when you understand Shuwb correctly, what man did is he covered over Satan's role as the god of religion. Now it's profound. The devil is the Lord of religion. He is the foremost object of worship of humankind. And for Satan attacking man, I think the answer lies in the usual juxtaposition of Hu before Akib. That's very uncommon. Typically, you would say his heel would be Akib Hu. In Hebrew, it's just the opposite of English. Pronouns follow the nouns. Adjectives and adverbs follow the verb or the noun. They do not precede it as we do in English. We would say red wagon. And Hebrew would be wagon red. And so for this to be Hu Akib, it is very different than Akib Hu. Akib Hu would be his heel. So as opposed to the pronoun his following heel, as would be customary in Hebrew, and therefore saying his heel or his foe, the object of the verb is him, with the treachery and deceit of Akib following. The same was true with Atah Rosh, with you as the serpent being the object of the verb, followed by the implications of Rosh, which is first and foremost from the beginning. As a result, the prophetic message is that Satan will strike and continually pierce, surrounding and battering mankind as a treacherous foe and a deceiver, impeding man's footsteps and stance, particularly as man tries to stand up alongside God. Now, this is what you get if you approach Yahweh's testimony with an open mind. You come to know who God is, who the adversary is, and you examine every word as it was delivered to us. Therefore, Zerah, the seed of woman, aka humankind, was predicted to conceal their ongoing reliance on Satan's corruptions of God's testimony, resulting in Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. Apparently, it's the oldest trick in the book. First played 6,000 years ago. And of course, nothing much has changed. And as a consequence, the devil remains mankind's most treacherous impediment to knowing Yahweh. And that's what he was programmed to do, because God does not want a crowd. God doesn't like us when we are collectivized. Satan's reputation as the adversary was acknowledged on this occasion, but based upon the religious evidence, it's the one thing Satan hates most of all. He doesn't want to be known as Hasatan, the adversary. Instead, as the Lord God. It is why you find attacks on Satan in their religions which feature the Lord as God. It is actually Satan attempting to conceal Shuwb and to rebuke the adversary title that he disdains. Boy, if you really want to see this in boldly and bluntly. Read the volume 2 and volume 3 of the Babel series, which is a comprehensive analysis of the book of Ezekiel, which is Satan's coming out party, where he presents himself as bold and beautiful and like none other, and that he got a really unfair rap in the garden because he was so much better than everybody else in the garden, and how he's just not fully appreciated. You should read the Babel series and come to know how Satan presents himself in the book of Ezekiel. You'll clearly understand what God is saying here. Now, turning our attention to Satan's little helpers, life would be more challenging, and it would be different. She and he would do as they were originally designed. That's why it's so interesting. No matter how challenging and undesirable that would be for them, those who had failed in the garden were being served a giant slice of reality. By the way, this is the same thing that God is trying to tell those who call themselves Jews today, who should be Israelites and Yehud. I'm going to give you a big slice of humble pie. I'm going to send a goy who's going to be my voice to call you back. Same thing here. I asked you to work with me. You didn't. And so the consequence of being booted out of the garden because you wouldn't do as I'd asked, and you were of no value, and you were just dependents, well, now you're going to get to work because you're on your own. So those who had failed would now have to deal with reality. It is something today's youth, the religious, political, and conspiratorial, would benefit from as well. You know, the day of the influencer putting some stupid message up and looking stupid as it plays, that's over. You know, there is no job of influencer in God's realm going forward. No room for conspiratorialists either. The conspiratorialists on your resume, political pundits on your resume, you're not going to get a job going forward. So as you listen to the following assessment, it is instructive to know that it was directed towards this man and this woman. So while it is natural to want to extrapolate beyond them, we can only be certain that Yahowah was specifically addressing what had gone awry in the garden, which means we can all learn from it because we now know what went wrong in the garden and we can apply that to ourselves. But he's speaking to these two individuals, one of which he loves dearly, his firstborn. To the woman, he said, he's going to deal with the one person he loves the most last here. Because it'd be a long time before God would speak again. A long time. To the woman, he said, I will substantially and demonstrably increase. This is Rabba. When you read Rabba, it means that I will, in magnitude, quantity, multiply. Do you know any people that refer to themselves as Rob something, Rabba and Rabbi? Yeah. Does it mean teacher?
No.
It means exalted one, great one.
So I'm here.
Yeah. Yes. As a matter of fact, Rob, which is great and exalted, with the suffix I, or which would be a Y in Hebrew at the end of it, it's actually personalized. It means I'm great. The title Rabbi means I'm great. God doesn't agree. So I'm going to greatly increase the intensity of your labor, of your expenditure of energy, and of your work, which will be challenging. This was the title of the chapter. Itsabown. And also an association, your childbearing. There's an and there, which means I'm going to increase your workload. I'm going to make certain that life is challenging. I asked you to be an Ezar for man, to be a helper, to be an assistant, to work in collaboration with man, and you worked against him. So now we're going to set you back up so that you learn the value of work. So Itsabown is actually applied to both Adam and to Chawah. So, and the first part, he's not talking about labor pains. In the first part, God is just saying, you're going to work, babe. We're unwilling to work on behalf of Adam in the garden. So now the intensity of your labor, of your expenditure of energy, of your work, it's going to be challenging and intense. No easy way out now. You had it easy street. You don't anymore. You blew it. And also, eth, in association with your childbearing, your pregnancy, the period of gestation, giving birth, addressing the intensification of the pains and pleasures of sex and of rearing children. With considerable physical effort and hard work, you will bear sons and children. Boy, there's no harder job in the universe than raising children. And in doing it, mothers get to experience what Yahowah experienced with us. Ungrateful, very seldom appreciative, often rebellious, very often lazy, seldom taking initiative. Raising children is a tough job, and for the most part, the children give very little back, but they take a lot. And most mothers are going to experience a broken family. So you're going to bear your sons. It's going to be difficult. And towards your man, this is the thing that answers your question, Kevin. And towards your man, who created religion? Men. And towards your man, your overwhelming emotions and your feelings, along with an irresistible desire to dominate, mixed in with your strong sexual urges and abundant longings, will make him responsible for educating you, influencing your thoughts and dialogues by painting word pictures which explain the situation, thereby governing you by supervising you. And there's how it happened. In other words, she did not want to be influenced by Adam. She wanted to be a goddess.
Okay.
And God says, so you never did fill your role in loving and supporting Adam. So the consequence of not doing that then is that's going to be the primary driver of your life going forward. And in the garden, I gave instructions to Adam. He did a really crappy job of conveying them to you. Either that or you didn't pay any attention to him. And so I'm going to set it up that that's going to be the prime directive. He's going to give you instructions, and then you're going to deal with them. And you're not going to always deal with them rationally. You're going to deal with a lot of them emotionally. But that's the way it would be. There really isn't a woman in God's story that he delineates his instructions through a woman. There are 3 or 4 women with really important speaking roles and who contribute mightily to the story, but they're always in conjunction with a man, and God's instructions are delivered by men. They're supposed to work absolutely in harmony. It's not, he doesn't say, I'm giving men power over you. He says, I'm giving men responsibility regarding you. They need to teach you. So there it is. They will supervise. So he himself will share narratives with symbolic meaning. This is Mashal with you, so that he will be more in charge than you, as he uses vivid examples and pithy quotes to rule with you. Call, stem, indicates that this will actually occur in the relationship, while the imperfect conjugation conveys that the condition will be ongoing between them. Third person masculine singular, which means that it's he that is going to do these things regarding you. Most people just ignore the fact that this was written in third person masculine singular, but it changes everything, doesn't it? Once you know that it's that way, you have to deal with the words the way they were written. So when we consider God's pronouncement within the context that we have just witnessed, we find affirmations of the prior conclusions that I have introduced this finding using. Adam and Chawah were too passive. There was no indication that they valued work at all, or that they made any contribution to the relationship with God or with one another. Nothing. I mean, there's literally is nothing. Nothing said that Chawah or Adam did that made the garden better or that contributed to the relationship with Yahweh. Not one thing. And if it were something that was done that had merit, God spills the beans, man. He lays it all out. Not a thing. So
What did they do?
they were dependents. What does the Gen Zer do all day? Well, we know they talk to their AI lover online, and they post and play with social media. They play online games. They pretend that they're going to become an influencer. What do they do? What's their contribution? What do they do all day? You know, I live on an island where about 80% of the population is on the government dole. They don't have jobs. What do they do all day? Sleep? Party at night? Get drunk? Drugs? Mayhem? Have children that they don't raise, that they abuse? What do they do all day? They would go from it and look by comparison. You know, I made my living. I didn't need to do anything other than this, and yet I spend 12 to 14 hours a day, 7 days a week working at this. No, that's not. It's like I was telling Kevin, who devotes so much time to the Covenant family, and so does Rich and Perry, and so have you guys. And for us, it's a labor of love. And nothing we'd rather do. It's totally fun, completely rewarding, marvelous in every way, but don't get far from the fact that it is still work. I finally got to the point where I could translate the first sentence in Ruth. It's a long one, and the second one's even longer than that. But I had to work my way there, and I worked my way there by getting up and getting at it before sunrise and going well before sunset every day. And so you work at it. You know, work has its rewards. It's marvelous. I highly recommend it. Comes highly recommended, by the way. And what that also tells us, if you want to be part of what God's going to do in Shamayim, you want to be there with him, you better demonstrate now that you like work, that you're capable of work, you can be productive when you work, and you can make a contribution through your work. Otherwise, you aren't going to fit with him in eternity, because there's only one way for us to grow and become more each passing day so that eternity has any value for us, and that is to work. We're not going into eternity to sit around and eat bonbons all day. We're going to work at it. And if you think work's a pejorative, you don't belong.
As long as the
So
work
they would
is
struggle to
enjoyable.
survive. What, JB?
I said, as long as the work is enjoyable. If you love what you do, I mean, it's great.
Mm-hmm.
I've had jobs where that wasn't always the case, but I still did the work. But
Yeah, but there's work that we've all done that we did not enjoy because it had a purpose. It contributed something to our own homes and our own growth, our things that we needed to survive, and then later our families and our wives and husbands and children, and sometimes you work just for your own edification. It doesn't mean that every job is easy. It doesn't mean that every job is that every aspect of the job is fun. There are jobs where every aspect of the job is fun. Well, I'm not even sure that's the case. Let me be honest. I mean, this job that we're doing now, and you get attacked every which way. And so there are aspects of it that aren't just no fun at all. Look at Mosheh. He asked Yahowah to kill him multiple times, and he was miserable. He hated the job. And so it's not always easy. Not supposed to be easy. You don't develop any character if everything's easy, do you? How do you prove to God you're trustworthy if everything's perfect?
Mm-hmm.
You can't. You've got to make mistakes and learn from them and trip and fall and get back up. You can't be lounging around all day, which is what they did in the garden, eating fruit and paying no attention to anything that needed to be done or could be done to improve it, to an ordeal that would be enormously challenging. They would have to work to survive. So it's a common mistake over the ages to narrow the implications of Itsabown, ata, your physical labor, with heron, ata, your pregnancy and bearing children. With wa and between them, one is an addition, an added thought to the other. And that is to say, all forms of work will be physically challenging, including bearing and raising children. Yahowah was not only reinforcing the realization that conceiving and raising children would be one of life's great challenges, but also that it is that this was going to be overwhelming for Chawah. She was a really, really crappy mother. She was horrible at it. And I'm not sure Adam was a very good father either. But, Adam, his dode, was a crappy father too. And a lousy husband. So these personality traits would continue. So while she had 3 sons, she flunked motherhood. On a broader note, it would require an enormous expenditure of energy to regenerate the tree of knowledge and to distribute its fruit, the result of which would be to bring children into the covenant family. God doesn't like people very much, but there's some people he likes very much. And none of it would be easy, and I can surely attest to that. And now that Richard and Perry are here and they get to see every day that what we do, they can attest that it is not easy. And Kirk, you've been here. JB, you've been here. You guys know, and we've met many times too, JB. This is just not easy. It's very real. God does not want to make it easy. Really has no interest in making it easy. We wouldn't appreciate what we're learning if it were easy. We wouldn't grow beyond what we're spoon-fed if it were easy. There'd be no joy of discovery if it were easy. So in the garden, there was no indication that the firstborn showed much initiative to teach or guide his woman. Likewise, there was no mention of anything the woman did which might be seen as beneficial for the man. Not wanting their ineptitude to continue, God redirected the woman's attention and reaffirmed the man's role in their relationship. This is what they failed to do in the garden. So guess what, sweetheart? This is what you're going to get going forward. God is very fair.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Well,
so we have reached a point where it's probably best to sum up what we have done. We'll pick up Luminaries at another point. But Perry, you've been sitting there quietly listening. I know you've got your headset on, so now you can hear what everybody is saying. Are you sitting over there because you've got your headset on and want to listen, or you've got the microphone so you can?
I have the microphone.
You can contribute.
one of the things, being down here, it's almost overwhelming. All the things that need to be done can be done.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have to plug away, and guess what? They get done.
They get done.
You just have to plug away and keep at it.
Keep at it. Like your project now, after working on getting the grammar up and working to isolate the proper pronunciation, the challenging words to pronounce, is that you're working to make certain that once we have Joe's very sophisticated tool enabled and focused on, let's say that he does, which we're hoping, Twistianity and goddamn religion, which we need an AI narration of those books with an avatar, because I've tried to present them, and there was almost 100 programs on Twistianity, and I'm not even through the first volume. So we really have to have those read by an AI, and so Joe is taking the responsibility of the toughest books with all of the foreign words in them to get those books up with so that you go to the page turners and you'll have the text right there. It'll be highlighting the text that that we're reading. You'll have a voice that mimics mine and an avatar reading it to you, and the page turner format, completely interactive. And he's focusing on doing the really tough job with those books. And that leaves us, though, with another 25 books or more to do. And this is a really tough undertaking. So Perry has a very fast computer downstairs and has trained 3 very different kinds of text-to-speech programs, and has systematically been working with them this last week, and now has a pretty darn good.
Rich and I actually have hope that it's going to be possible. We're starting to see progress.
Yes.
Well done, Terry.
Yeah, and this is unfortunately, Rich has a lot of experience at it. Perry has experience at it, and have the tools to do it and the will to do it, but it is exceedingly difficult because of the vocabulary we're dealing with. Exceedingly difficult, and to make it consistent with everything else, I have a very unique voice and presentation style. It's not like anybody else's, and so to clone that is also a challenge, particularly with our unique vocabulary. Like, you listen to the songs that Leah does through AI, and with all of the works, she still can't get Yahweh's name right. It's Yahowah in all of her songs, and that's not right. It's not Yahowah. It's Yahowah. It's a very different sound in those two formats. The hey is not part of the ho. There's no ho in Yahweh's name. It's Yahowah, and it's difficult to do that, and to train them to.
Guess who?
Anybody else lose audio?
Yeah. There is no audio.
Yeah,
You're not able to hear it?
No,
I can hear you.
I can hear you just now. There was silence for about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes.
Oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
wow.
I thought it was going to go out to everybody.
Wow. Okay. Can you try it again to go out to everybody? I'm sorry. That was. Yeah. It's trying to play the audio that was produced today from text to speech. And I'm sorry, it was magnificent. I'm sorry that it was just had that long silence. So we're going to try one more time to see if we can get it to play. Yes?
Still not hearing
No.
Still
anything.
can't hear.
All right. So that was a bust. Okay. That's a bust. Okay. It's a shame because it was really quite good, but that was a complete bust in trying to bring it to you. So let's just take that off of the program. But it tells you just how difficult a challenge it is, and the one thing that is necessary that you would find no place else is that somebody else is using an AI. The AI is writing the script. The AI is delivering the script. The AI is creating the avatar, and it's a 4 clicks presentation on YouTube or the like, and that's what they're doing. We are not in that position. We have books that are average 600-700 pages. The delivery is long. The vocabulary is extraordinary. And there's many foreign words in it. And the only way that you can convey something like that and keep people's attention is that you have to change pace, you have to change tone, you have to change how loudly you're speaking. There are so many different things. We have a lot of echo, Rich, in the background now. But there are many, many different things that are necessary to make that long a presentation palatable for people. And so we have to train the artificial voices to change cadence. And there's so much of it that requires emotion, and to get that to come through text to speech is a challenge. And what he just played, I got to hear it in my ears. I'm so sorry that you are not, even though we tried it a couple of times. They're on the cusp of delivering that. And then if you can add the avatar to that, because you add the avatar for the purpose of most people lip read in addition to hear. And if you have both working for you and you can have an expression, it's just much easier to process information. And at the same time, we have the books that'll be not only will that paragraph that's being read to you be up on a page turner and turn automatically, it will be highlighted in a soft yellow as the voice is reading that section. And it'll all be captured and then streamed from the yadayah.com site in conjunction with the page turner books.
Amazing.
So this is really something no one has ever attempted before. And it's a big job because there's 30,000 pages. And with AI, which you would think is that they would, if anything, a computer could process long hours and lots of information very quickly and be consistent. So you'd expect a computer to be consistent. You would expect a computer to be logical and treat the word the same way all the way through. You would expect the computer to have the attention span to get through a project. Do you know that you can only feed text to speech one sentence at a time?
No, really?
Yeah, one sentence at a time. And that if you were to give it a book, it would take more than a year for it to process that book, and what you'd get back would be garbage. If you gave it a chapter at a time, it would take you 6 to 9 months, and what you'd get back is garbage. If you gave it a paragraph at a time, you got a 50-50 chance of getting through it without extreme alteration to the point where you would hate it. You have to do it one sentence at a time. And then you've got to phonetically give it the words that the pronunciation is important. And then you have to train your avatar, your voice to speech, over and over and over and over again. Exceedingly challenging. And that's why it would have been really nice for everybody to be able to hear the tone of that.
I can put a sample up on Facebook or whatever.
Yeah.
But the problem with AI is we found out that we are training your style, not your words or your voice. We are training your style. And that's the tough thing.
Yes.
And it's difficult to maintain a lack of bias along those lines.
There is tone of voice is one thing. And so you can replicate the tone of someone's voice fairly easily. Style is a whole different thing. And that's what we're talking about. When Yahweh uses my voice to be his voice to talk to people, that voice is actually like a singer. I'm not able to sing songs because the being on key is not my thing. But I do know how to use my voice to keep people's attention, to focus on the right things, to highlight profound things when they're said, to be angry when it's important to be angry, to be joyous when it's important to be joyous, to speak quickly when that's appropriate, and to speak, what a beautiful daughter, to speak slowly when that's appropriate, to change the tone, to change the cadence, and to have a unique delivery, because everything with Yahweh is unique. There is nothing with Yahweh that is common. And so that's the style. And with Yahweh's style, if you're dealing with the spoken words, style is as important as the substance. And so you would have also seen that we're making team is making huge progress even on style. And the biggest challenge of all is that with all of the mispronunciations, like Yahweh's name, there's so many people that want to make it Yahowah that it's just excruciating to break the I voices from saying it that way. And yet it's not that way. There's 4 distinct sounds from the 4 different letters, and you don't blend them together. It's Yahowah, not Yahowah. And so these are all things that are challenged with, and then the great scope of what we have with 30,000 pages and essentially 40 books. It's a lot to accomplish and to make it credible. And the pressure is that God's not looking for perfect. You don't need that. That would be terrible from God's point of view. We're fully aware of that. But you're still representing the creator of the universe. So you can't put out a product that is deeply flawed. And we're speaking for Yahweh at his encouragement. And it's our job to do the best job we can to make that credible. So anyway, that's the process of all of that. And we'll post something so that you'll have a chance to hear it going forward. Well, in conclusion, anything that was a real surprise for you in what we deduced from what happened in the garden and what Yahweh's consequence was to Hasatan and thus far to the woman?
It actually answers a lot of questions to how humanity got to this position.
Yeah, we got static there, but your point was
how close, how things that we knew years ago are so wrong.
Yeah.
They were literally cliches that they just regurgitated over and over again.
Yeah, I found that out today as I was finishing the presentation of the 6 most interesting minutes in the Torah, which is the whole episode around Mosheh's birth and the interaction with Pharaoh's daughter and the Amma. It really is just passionate and so beautifully orchestrated by Yahweh. And you realize that just none of it is consistent with the cliches that we have learned, that we've been told over time. And the real story is so much more interesting. And that's every time we get into anything, that is what we're finding. That's what we find here in the garden. It's not that Eve ate an apple and gave an apple to Adam, and that with one bite got all bent out of shape and kicked him out, and that was called first sin. That's the story. That's the religious story, and it bears There's no correlation between that story and the truth,
You know,
and it misses the point. Go ahead.
if I may, the one thing that has run, has really stood out, and especially the last several weeks, is, and especially with this story, is how close we came to him just saying, "I don't want to do this anymore."
Oh,
Yeah, Yahowah could have
Many
just
times.
avoided this whole thing anytime he wanted it. I think he was very, very close.
If it weren't for Noach and his wife and their 3 sons, of one which happened to be the redeployment of Adam as Shem, who then later became Dod. If it wasn't for the redeployment of Noach and the fact that Noach was Chinook, somebody that Yahowah already knew and trusted, that's why he took him. God was on record saying, "I regret having created man. I'm done. I'm out. I'm over." And he wasn't kidding. And if it wasn't for his ability to redeploy Chinook as Noach and the effort that was invested by Noach and his family, we wouldn't exist today. The planet wouldn't exist today. There'd be no covenant. There'd be nothing. We'd be completely and totally done. And the other thing that you learn about this is that it wasn't just a situation whereby Noach built the Tebah, and that it's not an ark, it's a Tebah, which is a vessel of insights regarding the ingatherings. That's what Tebah means. And what you learn is that when you figure out who Noach really is and how long he lived, that Noach and Shem, which would be the 2 luminaries, were the 2 fellows that were with Yahowah when they came to visit with Abraham at the time that God said, "You're going to have a son through Sarah."
That's cool.
And it is so cool that those are the 2 guys. And it's obvious those are the 2 guys. God gives us so many affirmations that those are the 2 guys. But that's not the end of it. They were the 2 guys that went down to Sodom. They're the 2 guys that yanked Lot out of Sodom. They are the 2 guys that when the Sodomites were having the conniption fit and they wanted Adam, you're dealing with nearly a 900-year-old man that was there at the time. That was Noach. And it was Shem who became Dod that went into Sodom. And God gave them the authority to destroy the place. And then that's not the big deal. The big deal is Noach, the last year of Noach's deployment as Noach is the exact time that Abraham and Yishak are going to Mount Moriah to fulfill the dress rehearsal for Pesach and affirm the covenant. And they're the 2 guys that were with Abraham and Yishak as the witnesses. It's just so ingrained in the whole story. And when you know who the players are, then you come to know that, we as humans came within a breath of God giving up on the whole experiment. God was really upset with what we had become and said, there's no point to any of this. And then, you go forward in time, and then if you think that God decided, I'm going to go all in with a baby that's 3 months old that his mother just abandoned and threw into a river, that's going to work out. And by the way, the most evil regime on the planet just happens to be Pharaoh, and I'm going to have this baby taken into Pharaoh's household, and that's going to work out somehow. And oh, by the way, I'm telling you this story exactly 600 years to the day that Noach was responsible for being the witness to the affirmation of the covenant in year 2000 Yah, 1968 BC. It's exactly 600 years to the birth of Mosheh. And he names one man, the man that roars on behalf of the family. and he names the mother significant to Yahowah, and that she is the Alma in that story. And that we learn that that the father's life is 137 years. At 17, he conceives Mosheh. How long did Mosheh live? 120 years.
120.
40 in Mitzrayim, 40 during the Exodus, and 40 in between in Arabia. Was there his whole life. You just every nuance of the story, they just all reinforce one another, and at this time that the whole human experience was again on the line. If Mosheh didn't come through and fulfill his role, and by the way, he was somebody who God knew. He was redeployed. He was a man whose name means I'm going to do this again, Yosef.
Mhm.
And you come to understand God's story and his players and how we were at a crossroads then. If he couldn't get the children of Israel out of Mitzrayim, it was all over. And, when Mosheh, who was raised by his mother and father, he didn't go to Pharaoh's house until he was a full-grown adult. And the first experience after we're told he went to Pharaoh's house as a full-grown and prominent adult. So he was raised entirely by his mother and father. He stands up to the taskmasters, and the first thing we learn is that after he did so, it's his own people that
Right,
condemned
yeah.
him for doing so.
Yeah. Jeez.
And so Mosheh knew that these were really, really rotten people that had a serious problem. And, how in the hell is God going to get them out of Mitzrayim when they're that embittered? They're that stiff-headed. They're that repulsive. And it was going to take a lot. Boy, I tell you what, Mosheh, what he had to endure is just stunning. And then, you came up to the same problem again. God was going to give up the whole thing. When Dode comes back as Dode, he has crappy parents, abandoned by one, the other one's a whore. And he treats women terrible because he's a lousy father, he's a lousy husband because he's had no experience as to how to do either of these things. And he's turned on God. He is now condemning God for his horrible behavior. This is what you see. And rather than coming to grips with what he has done and returning to God, they stopped talking together. They stopped talking for better part of 20 years. They had no conversation together. None. And so it was a really desperate thing. That's when we got redeployed again. Fix this. You either fix this relationship or it's all over. There is no fulfillment of the Moed Mikre. There's no covenant. There's no return. It's all over. Fix it. And then when it was necessary to raise Dode so that he could fulfill Pesach, Matz, and Mekodim, and raise him in his own city and his own country that was now controlled by the most despicable beasts in human history, the Romans, who were acting like it was theirs. Then it was his. And to get him to allow them to crucify him on Passover and then to go into hell, you don't think that took some work? Well, that's the next time they were deployed. And then now at a time when we're just, decades away, and now only 7 years away from Dode's return, and nobody knows him, and no one knows Yahowah, and no one understands the covenant. It's desperate time. Either get somebody that's going to know these things and convey these things and reacquaint the world with Yahweh's name and his beloved son Dode's reputation and the purpose of the fulfilled Mikre and what timeline we're on and when all these things are going to happen. You either get that done or none of it gets done. There is no return. There is no going back to the garden. There's no fulfillment of Shabu, of Teruah. God doesn't return with his son on Kippurim. None of it happens. So, once again, it's do or die. There's been a whole bunch of those.
Craig, to elaborate on what Rich said a few moments ago, and what we've been saying for as long as I know you, trust and rely on Yah.
Yep.
Go where the words go.
Yep.
And where they lead. And in Joe Page speak, it's time that we all scrub the hard drive and follow that advice.
Yes.
And my concluding remarks here are just to say that what you witness here on this show and every day and every minute is the most philoshemitic individual who walks the earth in total opposition to the rabbinical types. So I say B'nai Israel, Yehudim worldwide, especially the influences and those in government, bear witness to this. You're being given a gift.
You are.
You're being given a gift.
For free.
And you're able to reverse the proclamation that was echoed and put into quill onto parchment by Hosha. The divorce can be over.
Yeah, the whole purpose of reenacting Numbers 19 with Eliah being the master of ceremonies again on the Temple Mount, on Teruah, and the fire and the ash and the water is to fulfill Numbers 5, which called the adulterous woman. So you can purge Israel of her religious and political guilt so that there is a surviving remnant, and so that when Dod returns as king, there's also a wedding. And for the first time, he's going to get the appropriate bride. He's had some really rough goes. His choices in wives and women have not been very good. But this time it's going to be different. And that's marvelous in and of itself. The way the whole story fits together is just beautiful. And now we get to focus on the greatest love story of all, the story that makes all of the rest of it work. And for Leah and I, we're going to tell the story of Ruth and Boaz. It's the one time we're deployed. We're just in our natural element. There's no stress. Every word, every action, every deed is prophetic of things to come. And so we're kind of living in a prophetic realism, if you will, and talking about delivering the Amma, delivering the kinsman redeemer through Boaz. But yet, he's in his natural element in Bethlehem. And she is in her natural element. And life wasn't easy for either of them, but it was the most beautiful love story and the least pressure, least responsibility. They just got to live covenant in that story. So it's going to be a joy to tell this. I'm so glad that it's now the last chapter of the last book. We get to tell that story. All right, gentlemen, it's a pleasure to have been able to do this. Thank you for your contribution. Perry, I'm sorry we weren't able to play your rendition, but hopefully you'll get to post it on the site. People get to hear where we are in this. And
You're making progress.
Yep, Rich, we had a very full and productive week. Long vlog on the blog this morning, and here we are with a long show again tonight. So no one can criticize the fact that we don't put in the effort. God wants something done. We're devoted to the cause. He deserves our best. And hopefully, Israel, you're going to recognize that it's checkmate now for your country. The last time you didn't have a country, it was really bad for Jews, and anti-Semitism is much worse today. There's only one hope. It's Yahowah. And to find him, you need to go to yadayah.com. That's why it exists, is for you. Please go. Please read. Please think. Please walk away from religion. Boy, if ever is a time you ought to know that the Haredi and the rabbis are parasites, it's now, and what they're doing now. Even Natali, running for prime minister, said that if we don't resolve this parasitical problem of the Haredi, there's no hope for Israel. And he's right. But, he's married now to Lapid, and there's no hope for Israel when 25% of Israelis are more focused on their sexual identity than they are on anything else. So that's a serious problem too. So Israel it's a mess. So the only hope hope is for you to drop religion, drop politics, stop relying on the idea if they failed you, they lost. And now embrace Yahweh again. Stop erasing his name. Stop referring to yourself as Jews and start referring to yourself as Yehud. It's a blend of Yahweh's name and Dod's name. It's marvelous. Accept it. It means Yahweh's beloved. That's what your opportunity is. Well, there's Mr. Rich in the corner. Good to see you here on the show.
Sneak in and sneak out.
Yeah, he does sneak in and out here and there. Rich runs these programs. Without him, we'd be sunk. So we're grateful for it. It's a lot to produce.
All right, Shuwb for Shuwb.
Shuwb for Shuwb. Return to Yahweh if you want him to return for you. So it's Shuwb for Shuwb or no Shuwb for you. That
Great
is
line.
our reality.
Yeah, great line.
So,
Thank you.
yep. So I'm glad you got a day off, JB. I took a lot of it, and we've had a marvelous.
Enjoyed
week,
every minute of it.
Yeah, thank you. We've
Thank
had a
you.
marvelous relationship for a very, very, very long time. Very productive and supportive. Good night, everyone. May Yah bless.
Shabbat, Shabbat, come home and rest. Shabbat, Shabbat, Yahowah's best. Lay down the weak, let your soul be free. Shabbat, Shabbat, come back to me. 6 days we work, then we bask. We leave the noise to hear Yah's voice. We listen, we learn, we struggle to know. We walk with Yah through the mikveh. Shabbat, Shabbat, come home and rest. Shabbat, Shabbat, Yahowah's best. Lay down the weak, let your soul be free. Shabbat, Shabbat, come back to me.